It doesn't feel like it's going all the way up against that. Yeah, the sills are in the exact same spot. I don't think this was allowing this filter to go all the way up against the housing, the flange. Hey, what's going on, folks? Bienvenue. My name is Wade, and this is Sabine River Valley. We're in the garage today again. If you're like me, you've had a ton of rain lately, and the sun is finally out, but it's going to take a little bit to dry up enough to get out and do some work that we really need to do right now. But so today we're going to be in the garage working on the Massimo T-Boss 550. It's time for an oil change, and I've seen a lot of people share kind of some frustration with the oil changes on these. It can be a little difficult if you don't have the right tools. So we're going to go through it, and hopefully I do have the right tools to make it a little bit easier, and I can just kind of share the process with you and help you figure out how to make life a little easier when it comes to changing the oil on these things. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to hop over to the passenger side, and we're going to pull the seat up here. If I can get it up. There we go. Get it out of the way. And so down here is where a lot of our work is going to be done. So the oil fill is down in this area, and it is a little difficult to get to. But hopefully with the right funnels, we can do this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the plug out, and then we're going to drain the oil. Now, I don't have anything to lift this up on. I want it on level ground to do this. So I don't want to lift one side or the other, and I don't have a way to lift all four sides up super easy. I could put some jack stands under it, but I'm going to try not to have to go through that. The other thing is that my good oil drain pan it comes up to about this high. Let's see if you can see this actually. So it's a little too hard to work under and keep it there. So I've got me a smaller pan. It'll hold everything, but I still have room to work under here with a socket. Now I don't know which size socket fits that. So we're going to get to play the guessing game here. Let's see. Try 19 first. That's too big. Maybe 17. That's it. 17 millimeter. Loosen it. Yeah, I think so. All right. So this is going to go everywhere. I'm not even going to try to save that. Just going to let it fall into the tub. Here we go. Did it fall? I didn't hear it fall. It might have fallen onto that. All right. We'll let that drain there. And then what I'll do, I wish I knew where that went. There it is. It's right there. So it fell right there. We'll see if we can get inside here, open that up. Maybe it'll help it drain a little faster. By the time we get there, it might be not even worth it, but I kind of think this is the throttle cable. I'm not 100% sure, but right here, the drain plug is right underneath that. Or not the, I'm sorry, not the drain plug, the fill plug is right underneath that. So, let's see, can you see that? Right here. Maybe. I'm going to open that up. And of course, I'm not going to be able to by hand. So I have my nip X here. I'm going to try to get in there to grab it with this. But these might be too long. So what I'll do, if that's the case, is I'll take a really small crescent wrench, about that size, and I'll just adjust it to where the top of that cap, there's a flat piece that comes off that. I'll just adjust it to where, you know, it just gets in there and, you know, not like super tight or anything. But, and then I can maybe break it open with this. Yeah. And doing this one-handed is also not the best. Oh, I think I got it. Yep. All right. So it didn't take much. It was just barely too tight for my hand in this position to get that. There we go. And then this is also the dipstick, which is crazy. So look, you know, this isn't a bad machine at all. We've done a ton of work with this. This has been a workhorse here for us, right? But it's not an expensive machine, right? I mean, so, you know, this is one of those places that you're gonna have to deal with something that's a little awkward, you know, not the best design. And maybe, you know, over time they'll be able to spend some time to kind of re-engineer that and make it better on newer models, but it is what it is. So, I mean, you know, you can go out and buy an expensive machine and that might make this a little bit easier, you know, or if you can't, this is just what you have to deal with. So, and I'm fine with doing it this way. I don't have a problem with that. I would love it if it was easier, but I'll work with this all day long. Now, while we wait for that to completely drain out, the next thing we'll just go ahead and do is take the filter off. The filter is in a really tight spot too down here. It's not as bad, but getting a good grip around that can be a little difficult. So I have something that I like to use when I'm doing this, and I found these out of necessity for my big TYM tractor. You know, they've got a guy in Korea putting those on there that he's also the Olympic champion for thumb wrestling. And he's really good at his job, and he gets them on and they're tight and they're tough to get off. So there's lots of things you can use, oil filter wrench, strap wrench. You know, you can try to do it by hand. You can do, you know, you can get a oil filter pliers, something like that, and try. But a lot of times, again, the same thing with taking off that fill port cap, I couldn't really get in there in a good position with something real long, right? I couldn't get in there with my Nipex because they were too long to do that. And so a strap is, any kind of strap or wrench like that has to go kind of sideways. So you've got to have that room, you know, around the radius of it to actually move that. Well, what if you don't have a lot of room? Like right in here, it's going to be tight for that. So what I've found that I really, really like are these oil filter removal tools. I actually don't even know if they have a different name than that, but they allow you to connect your socket wrench to that, so you can put an extension on it and kind of, you know, get pretty far, you know, away from it and then get a good turn on it. Now, there's a couple different types of these, and this one came with two different ones. One of these has a flat end on it. So it's just got flat ends on there. And I mean, those work sometimes, but this big one here, this is the bigger out of the two. It has knurled ends on it. So these really bite in to that material. So if it's something that you can leave a tooth mark in, go with the knurled ends on these. They work great, and you can put so much force on that to pull it out, and it's super easy. So I highly recommend these. I'll put, you know, I'll show you, I'll put a link at least in the description to show you where I got these. I just got them off Amazon. You know, they're not the most expensive brand out there, but they work great. So they are on the connection on this, they're 1/4 inch, and the ones that I came with, they came with a, I guess that's a 3/4 inch adapter, so you can use, you know, a larger socket ratchet when you're doing this. So I'm going to start off with my long extender. I don't know that. Let's see if I get in there. That might be too long. If it is, I'll go to my shorter one. All right, so, you know, just throw it on, and that's what you get. There's also a hose here. It's a little pliable, so you can kind of move it. But you get in here. Come on. Oh no, you know what? Focus. Let me see something. It might be, the filter itself might be too small for these. I don't think these can get tight enough, this one. So hopefully this one will still work, because I think it does. Oh Lord, please help us here, because this was my trick. This was my hope for this. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. All right. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, you see that? That was perfect. Thank you, Lord. All right. That did great. All right. Yeah, that's movable by hand now. So the smaller flat ones, I had to go to that because they closed tighter on it, but it worked great. So what I'm going to do is, there may be a little bit of seepage, to try to help, in case there is, I'm going to throw down a piece of cardboard. I'm going to slide it under my... So if it does spill out, maybe it'll fall on that cardboard instead of the concrete. All right. So we'll grab this out of here. Yeah, there it goes. That's a long thread too. All right. So we're definitely spilling on the cardboard. So that was a good choice, I guess. So wisdom comes with experience most of the time. You could learn it from a book. But most of us, you know, we learn by doing it the hard way. And if this tells you anything here, it should tell you that I have spilt a lot of oil on my driveway. A lot of oil. And now, you know, I'm at least trying to not do that anymore. Here's the filter from Tractor Supply. That's where I ordered it from. And, you know, if I have to use this, I'll use it. This might be a good filter. I don't know. I don't know who makes these, right? That's my only concern. But if I have to use it, I have to use it. But what I did, we're going to try, is I cross-referenced to that. And I want to say, man, I don't remember, Linhai or somebody, their filter for these. I was able to cross-reference that number, and I found this from Baldwin. And Baldwin is a company that I do definitely trust on filters. So, I mean, it looks similar. This all looks like it matches up. So we're going to throw this one in there. This is B7333. And if it's the same, if it does work, these filters work for the 550s and the 560s. So this filter should work for a 550 or 560. I don't know for the other models. So let's give this a try and see. I'm pretty excited about this. Should filters excite you? I don't know. Should oil excite you? I don't know. It does excite me. I really like learning about the oils that we're using, and especially with tractors, I'm using motor oil, gear oil, hydraulic, transmission fluid. I mean, so anyway, I kind of become an oil nerd. So let me get you back in here. So we want to take a little oil. Just put it on that seal. All right. Grab my rag and let's see. Let's see if it works. Here we go. All right, it's threading on. Let me see real quick. It doesn't feel like it's going all the way up against that, but the seal could be in a different, just slightly different. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we commit. So I'm going to take the old filter and the new filter. Yeah, so Linhai. So yeah, the seals are in the exact same spot. Now, let's see. The filter is about the same exact size. So I guess we go with it. It almost feels like thread down in is far. You know what I can do though? Let's take this one off and put that new one on. See if it looks any different. Alright. So I'm just going to put this on and see what it feels like, what it looks like when it goes on. So it starts on the exact same. That's good. Yeah, see, that closes up better. I don't think that other one, I don't think this bald one, there's a gap. There's a noticeable gap right here at the top. And I don't trust that. I'm not going to do that. So we are going to go, let me put a little, make sure we got some good oil around the seal. We're going to go with this one. That sticker off, or just leave it on. I'll just leave it on. All right, we're gonna go with the OEM filter, and they're not expensive or anything. It's just, again, I don't know where they're made. All right, that's hand tight. So on the Lenhi filter here, the OEM filter, there's concaves, I guess is what you'd say, kind of into the filter like this. So on the Baldwin filter, it goes up, and I don't think this was allowing this filter to go all the way up against the housing, the flange, I guess you'd call that. I don't believe that this was allowing it to go all the way up against that flange and tighten down. I could clearly see the machined metal, like clean machined metal, that this was butting all the way up against the seal was. This was not going all the way up against that. So I would not recommend doing that. Now, there's a couple of other ones, a couple other companies. I might order another one. You know, I like Wicks, Baldwin, Donaldson. You know, there's a few different companies that I like on their filters. So I might try another company and see if they have one that would work better. But for now, we're just going to stick with the OEM. Well, that kind of stinks. But I mean, you know, look, even if something doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, like that, I mean, don't try to force it, right? You don't want to, I mean, imagine the mess this would make if that shot oil out when I tried to crank it, and, you know, and if I wasn't getting the right pressure or, you know, oil through the system, I could damage something in here. So you don't want to even, you know, consider doing that. So if it doesn't feel like it's quite right, don't do it. But anyway. All right, so we'll get the plug back in, then we'll get her topped off. So for oil on this, I'm using Valvoline's full synthetic Ultimate Power Sport 4-stroke engine oil. And this, let's see, on here, this meets it's the Japanese standard. I'll throw it up on the screen if I can't see it here. But there's a spec that they like you to use on this, and this meets that. So, you know, make sure you don't have to use a Valvoline if you don't want. I like Valvoline. I've even got their grease here. So, but you know, you can use whatever your brand that you trust, right? Don't just go by what's on the bottle. Don't just go by, I mean, you know, I'm not telling you to go out and get the most expensive oil you can find. I understand that, you know, some of it is pretty pricey, but we're not even using that much oil in this machine. You know, go out and just get a brand that you trust. And I trust Valvoline. So Valvoline, Mobil, Shell, I would use those. Schaefer's, I'd love to use some Schaefer's. That's pricey though. Amsoil, a lot of people like Amsoil. Amsoil is, you know, one of the top brands out there. But again, see, I'm not even buying the most expensive. I'm buying what I can afford for this machine, and I trust Valvoline, like I said. So that's what I'm using here. All right, so now I got to get this thing out, and it fell right here. There it is. All right, so this has been dripping for quite a while. So I'm going to throw this back in. Push that in by hand as best I can. There it is. So that's pretty much all the way in. Now, there we go. That is on there. All right, so what am I using here to make this go a little smoother? So again, from the tractor world, getting into tight spots, I have a funnel like this. So it's got an extremely long tube on it. It's got a pretty small diameter at the end, so it should be able to go into the fill port. And now it's not a huge, they have some that are bigger, you know, this where you pour it in. I don't know what you would call that, but the actual funnel, I guess. So they have some that are bigger, and this is perfect for this size, right? So just a little bit of experience having to deal with this on tractors. I just went ahead and got one for smaller machines like this that should work for this. So hopefully it does what it's supposed to do here. So down in there is where we're trying to go. And I have to get around that throttle cable. I think that's what that is. I'm not 100% sure, like I said. So I'm going to try to throw that. Look at that. So can you see that? So that went right in. I did that one-handed. So that went right in to that fill port. All right, so the manual says that this takes 0.58 gallons, and what I've read is that's about 2.2 quarts. I think it's a little over 2.2, but everyone is saying that they use 2.2 quarts. So I'm going to use 2 quarts first, and then we'll crank it. We'll put this back in, crank it, let it run for a second, turn it off. Then we'll pull the dipstick out, clean it off, and then stick the dipstick in. You do not thread it back in to check it. You just push it in and then pull it out. And that's coming from the manual. So we'll check that to see if it's low, if it needs a little bit more. It's a lot easier to add more than it is to take some out. So that's the plan here. All right. I'm going to try my best to keep this from spilling everywhere. look at that. All right. And the thing is you can bend these up so that it doesn't drip out. In here without getting dirt and everything into it. All right. We'll crank her up. Reach down in here. I need to take my watch off. Okay, again, the manual says not to thread it back in, just stick it down in there and pull it out. Now I'm going to take my watch off. All right. Yeah, much better. So just stick it on there. Down at the very bottom. So I'm going to add a little bit more. So it's filled to here. So maybe around here, maybe down to the 24-ounce mark. So maybe about 8 ounces. There we go, right at that mark. Okay. All right. Okay, it's about halfway up now. The thing is that I don't know what's... I mean, I've got good oil in there. I've got a good amount in there. But should it come all the way to the top of that line? I don't know. But it's just over the halfway mark. of that. I might keep that in there for now and just stick with that. I think I'm going to. All right, so that looks good. While I'm in here, I'm gonna check my air filter and at least blow her out. There's no easy way to get to this, is there? Yeah, I was afraid of that. All right. Take that off. That's a 10 millimeter on that other end, so just if you wanted to know. All right, a little dirt. I'll go clean this off. I'll go blow this off. It's not super bad. All right, she looks good now. That was the hardest thing of this whole job. Now, we can throw the seat back on. Oh, before I forget. Don't want to leave my light in there. That would stink. There we go. All right, so a couple of other things that I recommend doing. You should be doing this every, I don't know, 10 hours of use, is coming in here and hitting all of your grease zerks. So let me see if I can get this light here so you can see. Like, there's one down here under the tire on each side. You know, they're all over the place. Anywhere that metal moves on metal, you're going to have grease zerks. There's one right there. Let's see. There's one down here. Right here. And I'll tell you what I did is I came in and put 45s. Do you see that? So it goes up and then it 45s out. So I can actually get my grease gun in there without taking the wheels off. I did that on a bunch of different ones. Not everywhere. Some of them didn't need that. So there's another one right there. That one's got a 45 on it. Much easier to get to. This one up here is just already easy. All right. So I use a lock and loop end on my grease gun that makes it a whole lot easier to connect to those things, and it won't pull off, so I don't have to have a hand, you know, down there constantly pushing on it. And it really, those 45s makes it real easy to get to those when I need to. So anyway, you know, grease zerks are super cheap. You can get, you know, a pack of 50 of them. These are all metric, right? So you can get a pack of 50, 100, I don't know, for just, you know, 10 bucks or something off Amazon. I really don't know. They might be less than that. They might be a little more. But I mean, it was real cheap. So I would go around everywhere, and anywhere that it's difficult to get to with a grease gun, I would just change that out with a 45. I highly recommend that. It makes life a lot easier. And if it's easy to do, you'll do it more, right? If it's harder to do, you'll know you need to do it, but you're like, oh, I just don't have time to get in there and fuss with that, you know, and fight with it, right? But if it's easy, if you know you can immediately walk up and just throw that grease gun on there, that might, you know, you might be like, oh, well, I'll do it real quick, you know, because I know it's not going to take me a bunch of time. All right. Well, that's the end of this video. I really appreciate y'all watching, and Lord willing, I will see y'all next time.